Well, we're surprised to see so many of you out in this bad weather. We are very appreciative that you would leave the comforts of home on this occasion. We are going to discuss a problem this morning that I think has been generally neglected, and that has to do with certain dimensions and proportions of science. We sort of open with the line, very beautiful line from Sir Edwin Arnold's Light of Asia, which seems to summarize the scientific dilemma. As veil upon veil we lift, we find veil upon veil behind. Science apparently can find the smallest items in nature, magnify them, only to find there's something else. You can study the stars, but always there's something beyond. We are limited by a universe so manifold in its manifestations that we have no way of really understanding it. But we got a very cute little notion about it about 2,600 years ago by a Greek by the name of Thales. Thales was quite a character, a wise man, one of the 7 sophists. He studied partly in Egypt. He was a member of the aristocracy, one of the magistrates of the city of Athens, and he also was asked the question, which someone said to him, Thales, what causes earthquakes? Thales thought for a couple of minutes and said, well, the earth is a ship, and it is floating in an ocean of invisible water. And as it sails along, every so often, somebody rocks the boat. Now that last remark seems to be particularly fitting at this time, when it would have looked as though everybody is rocking the boat. So, according to Thales, or extending his thought at least, if all the people riding on the boat are told that there's a whale off the starboard bow, they all rush to the starboard side and nearly sink the boat. Then someone says there's flying fishes on the left, so they go to the port side, and then the boat nearly turns over that way. No one seems to be able to keep the ship of state on an even keel, or the city or state itself in a condition of equilibrium. So somebody's rocking the boat. Now, up to very recently, it was assumed that these things were a series of celestial accidents. No one knew why they happened. There was no real explanation for them. They were the unsolved mysteries of coincidence. Now, even the material scientist is having a little trouble trying to explain some of the things that are happening today. We are in the midst of trouble in every direction. It would just seem as though the ship of state is on the rocks. Something very definitely is wrong. And I think Thales came nearer than anyone else to setting up the theory which was later extended by Pythagoras and still recently in the work of Newton and Kepler. The Kepler work was also given special attention by Carl Jung. The subject seems to be this. The problem is not that the mystery cannot be solvable. The problem is that the human faculties are not sufficiently developed to solve the problem. In other words, that we have much to see that we will not see with the eyes we have. We have much to hear that we cannot hear with the auditory equipment we have. We are surrounded by a great vacuum because we do not have within ourselves the facilities to explore that vacuum. Potentially we may have them, but we have ignored them. We have taken it for granted that what we see is all there is to see. And by getting various degrees of magnification, we can see a little further into the same thing. But we are not in a position to say that we can lift this curtain, which is a sensory perception pattern of ourselves. We do not know how to get behind the veil which is the limitation of our sensory mechanisms. So it's not what's there that's the problem. The problem is who's going to find what's there. How are we going to discover it? Well, this goes then immediately into a problem of mysticism. There apparently have been people who have gone a little further through the veil than we have. It's been easy to discredit them, simply say it was all hallucination, there's nothing to it. But now, the theories with which we are trying to live are not adequate. And if we continue as we go now, we're going to be in more trouble until something very drastic occurs. We need more insight. We need more understanding of the world around us. The Chinese had an idea about it in the cycle of Taoism, where they tried to explain the circulation of the solar system. They came to the conclusion that the ocean was the source. The sun drew the water upward in the form of mist. It was carried in the air to the mountain tops, where it fell and entered into and became the streams and rivers, and these in turn flowed right back again into the sea, creating a circle in which the atmosphere was purified by the light of the sun. Well, this was an advance of some of the other ancient theories, but it remains still a problem to understand, is there an actual connection, say, between war and earthquakes? Is there some reason why these things occur in patterns as they have for thousands of years? And yet no one has been able to rationalize the patterns. I think we are up against this very simple problem, that we do not understand anything that we cannot sense with our present perceptions and reflective powers. We do not know what the air is or what it has in it because we cannot see it. All we can see is a little fog or a little mist or something that appears in it and then disappears. We know that it has a limitation because when you climb a very high mountain, you better take some oxygen tank along with you because you will not be able to breathe. We know that also that somewhere in this mystery there is an organizing factor which we're just discovering. When the report was given, the Lady Anne Hamilton fell in a swoon when Lord Nelson was killed aboard his flagship. Everybody said it was a miracle or a delusion. But was it actually such a thing as that at all? Is it any different and basic from the fact that today we can sit in our home and have a direct television program from New York and see it just as though it was being done here? Something went through the air. Something that was received by another set of instruments suitable to receive it. The trouble seems to be there's something out there that we do not have the proper receiving set for. And it's not only something, but it's a lot of things. There are many, many stations in the air. The air is filled today with communication. And yet each of these bands of communication is separate, is able to maintain a specialized existence, and comes to us as though it was the only thing out there. So we are in the midst of a very mysterious situation about the air and the atmosphere around our own particular planet, and as far as that's concerned, the atmosphere of the whole universe. I think we can go back a little bit to a problem that was handled very well, I think, by Baron Charles Rickenbach. This man did a work on animal magnetism, which proved to his satisfaction and has since been supported by researchers by a dozen independent leaders in the field, that there are communication facilities between humans and humans without sound or noise, or without any connecting instruments, and also means of communicating with every form of life that exists, if we know how. I remember very definitely Mr. Burbank telling me about his researchers. They sent students from all over the country to study with him. They did exactly what he did, but they did not get the results. The difference was that when Mr. Burbank wanted plants to do certain things, he got down on his knees alongside of them and told them what he wanted them to do. Now, the plant has no ears. The plant, we have no way of knowing whether the plant could actually hear anything. But something was communicated. And the final proof of that was that finally Burbank got a Chinese gardener who had the same attitude and also talked to them, and the plants did what he wanted done. But those who didn't ask them got nothing. Now this kind of ties into theology, it ties into all kinds of fields of thought, but it seems to indicate that there is a vibratory system of communication that does not depend upon words, but depends largely upon thoughts, or even more definitely upon moods, upon the conditions of the individual's internal life and his ability to project feeling. That the communication is on the level of feeling. The communication is sympathy, as against the common antipathies with which we insult each other. That there is something there seems to be beyond question. Research with animals and plants have both demonstrated this. And the development of plant life as a result of being given the right instructions. I remember my friend William Gray, who was quite a healer before he passed on. He had some flowers in a box, and his wife had some flowers in a box. And she wasn't very sure of what he was doing, but the flowers were planted in the boxes the same day. She did the best she could take care of them, and he told the plants what to do and how to grow, and his grew twice as fast. How? No one knows. Also, Mr. Burbank was quite certain that he could communicate with his dog. Many people feel they can communicate with the animal. When you speak to your pet dog, does he understand your words? If the dog is a Greek dog and you're a Turk, can he understand what you mean? Probably not. But there is a feeling in you that you have put into words. And that feeling in you seemingly picks up a vibratory sympathy. Not a sympathy that is rationalized as we know it, but simply that there is a communication between all forms of life, a communication of mood and sympathy. This is what has been discovered also in researches with life in India by plant specialists. And there are workers now here in this country learning to talk the language of plants. And this is quite possible, because you can talk in any language you want to. It's not the words, it's the feeling. It is the friendship, it is the understanding, it's the sympathy. It's the transmission of essential knowledge in the form of vibration only. One vibration picking up from another. The same is true, I think, in most of the cases that we are working with in connection with world affairs. Our physical Earth is surrounded by an atmosphere that probably 6 or 7 miles thick, pretty rarefied on the outside, and within this we are sort of capsulated within an atmospheric field. This is further noted that there is a magnetic field of the planet. This is something else that we are just beginning to understand, although Paracelsus worked with it centuries ago. The Earth has its own psychic atmosphere. It has a magnetism factor. This magnetism factor provides a field of energies, and every living thing on the Earth is sustained by this field of energy. And this field of energy, as the Indian yoga found out long ago, is something that is affected not by what you say, but by what you are. That within every individual is the chemical compound of himself. He is a pattern of vibratory rates. These vibratory rates can be estimated and can be related to the